Hello everyone, my name is Tristan. Welcome back to the Blue Scarborough YouTube channel. Now, a couple things you're probably wondering. One, where have I been? I've been very busy. Life kind of hit me out of nowhere and it's filled up my schedule really quickly. So now not only do I have not nearly as much time to ride, because my amount of time that I have to ride is so limited now, I spend that time writing and being in the moment rather than trying to plan shots or think about a compelling script or a compelling video. If you look at my channel, you probably don't see, it may just seem like I turn on the camera and just kind of go at it. But there's a lot of things that I record that I try and plan out that either just doesn't work out or I don't like how it pans out in the edit, or I don't feel like it's compelling enough. So it ends up, on the drawing board. And so, I may not have a lot to show for the work that I've put into this channel, but it is something that I would like to continue to upkeep and eventually hopefully grow. And in the future, when I have more time on my plate, I would love to get back into making content again, because it's, I really find this enjoyable. I find the art of sharing the things that I love in my life to be, very rewarding. And I guess the second elephant in the room would be this cruise ship right here. When I started this channel, well, I guess when I really started this channel, I was just a dumb teenager, with a Garmin Verb that my dad he worked for Garmin, and so he would get these like demo kits for us, and so he could like rent essentially like equipment that Garmin was offering, and employees could take it home and test it out and use it and all that stuff. And so my dad used to bring me these Garmin Verb kits, and that was like their competitor to the action camera that GoPro was making at the time. And I just would, take those cameras and I would record a bunch of footage, and it would just be me and my friends doing dumb stuff on our bikes or our dirt bikes or going snowboarding. And I just have hours upon hours of footage of me and my friends just talking on the lifts or slogging through slushy days on Mount Hood. And so, I've always enjoyed recording my experiences because I value having that on film, and I value being able to go back and, God forbid one of those friends or something like that passes away. I really value the fact that I can go back and I can relish in the memories and the things that, I don't remember. But long-winded way of saying that I started this channel a long time ago. I put some dumb footage from me and my friends on it, but when I went to go relaunch this channel as Blue Square Bear, I wanted to kind of focus it on what is a good way of saying this? Like cost-effective ways of enjoying extreme sports. We'll just put it like that. I wanted to be an ambassador for people getting out and enjoying the things that I love, like mountain biking, rock climbing, snowboarding. And I didn't want people to feel like they had to go spend thousands of dollars or overextend themselves financially to do so. Because unfortunately, I feel like a lot of our industry is pushing towards that, especially mountain biking. It's like rampant consumerism. It's, you need to buy this thing because it is the new thing, and because it's shiny and it's cool and you need it, and you should buy this new bike and you should finance it because then you can afford it, when, really you can't afford it. And really you probably don't need that, $5,000 brand new bike, and you could probably do just fine with something that's older that you've, maybe put some of your time and love into, and is now, a little bit behind the trends, but is still a super safe and capable and rowdy bike that you can, get up to all sorts of shenanigans on. So, you might be hearing me say all this, and then you look at a carbon fiber, extra large, you know, Kashima coated everything, carbon wheels, carbon fork, or not carbon fork, carbon frame, carbon bars, you know, carbon cranks, axis, and you're like, huh, you know, that's awfully rich coming from someone who's got a, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 bike. And one, I'm not $4,000 or $5,000 into this bike. I'm about $2,500 into this bike, and that's with all of the recent service work I just did. So that's servicing the dropper, servicing the rear shock, servicing the fork completely, doing new brake pads, bleeding the brakes, doing, I mean, bars and grips were cosmetic stuff, but I'm always a little bit wary of a carbon bar that I don't know the history of. The carbon cranks I'm a little still scared with. I got new little booties for the ends of them. And then the drivetrain I just completely went through, and it's now got a used Axis Eagle X01, I think is what the technical name of it is. That I got off of a coworker because, you know, I can't afford to put brand new Axis on this thing. And in order to afford this bike, I had to sell my enduro, my dirt jumper, my downhill bike, and my hardtail. So I don't want to come forward with like any illusions of, you know, changing up on my day ones. I'm a big baller now. You know, I've got the cool long travel carbon enduro bike. And I mean, a lot of people that are like in the industry or, you know, are big pro bikers or whatever are going to look at this thing and be like, this is a, you know, 2019 clapped YT Capra that's, you know, 2 or 3 generations old. And you're totally right. But to me, for someone who's been riding, you know, $500, $600 to $1,000 to $1,100 bikes for pretty much the extent of my time I've been biking, you know, this is a huge investment, and it's not something that I feel like I would normally advise purchasing. And I've only purchased this after kind of the proof of concept of, you know, I felt like I was out riding my enduro. You know, I was hitting really big stuff on that, and the frame was a little bit small for me. You know, if maybe I had an XL from back in the day, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable hitting that kind of stuff. But you know, it wasn't a problem of like the linkage was bad or the frame design was bad. I actually really enjoyed the mullet. I loved the 27.5 front and the 26 rear. Like, that was awesome. The thing just turned on a dime, and it felt like I could just point it downhill, and it would just so reactively and lively just go where I wanted it to go. And it was a ton of fun. But the things I've been hitting have been, you know, really big, really long jumps, and big jumps into kind of like a little bit like rockier landings and stuff. And I feel like I just needed more bike underneath me. You know, it could be just like a safety blanket thing to feel like I'm more in the bike rather than on top of it. And so this, you know, extra large frame and the 170 travel that it offers really helped with that. And also, you know, full 29 helps a lot as well. And so, you know, I had my enduro, I had my downhill bike. My downhill bike was older. The Fox 40 needed some love, and I was really, really, really excited to do a cool, cheap downhill build because I got the bike for really cheap. But when I talked to Fox, they told me that the parts weren't going to be here until August, that I need to rebuild the 40 on it. And I actually have some 27.5 Bomber 58 lowers that were going to go on that bike, so I could convert it to a mullet. It was going to be it was a Trek Session, and it was going to be, you know, a fun converted, you know, $500, if I'm doing the math right, yeah, $500 downhill bike that, you know, had a titanium rear spring, and it would have had a rebuilt Fox 40 that's got Bomber 58 lowers and is 27.5 converted with new Kashima stanchions and like I was super excited for all that. And then kind of Fox told me like, hey, a bunch of the stuff that we need for this build are going to be a few months out. So I wanted to ride the bike, and I needed a bigger bike to hit some of the stuff that I wanted to hit this season on. And I couldn't really wait for that because my capital was tied into that, and I needed it back out so I could buy something like this. And so yeah, I sold my Enduro, my $500 amazing budget hardtail, my Norco Fluid HT3 that I converted from 27.5 plus to 29, and I put a Rhythm 34 on the front of it, and it was just like a huge amount of fun. The bike was super playful, and it was just like a blast to jump and throw around. But now I have this, and it takes 4 or 5 bikes, and it turns them into kind of one bike that I get to use more frequently. And that's also, one bike that needs brakes, one bike that needs pivot bearings, one bike that, needs suspension services and stuff. So I still stand very much so by the mantra of, if you have a little bit of time on your hands and you want to get into the sport and maybe you don't have a ton of money, find something cool that's used, that's older, maybe a little bit more neglected, and then go begin the hunt. Find stuff on Facebook Marketplace, find stuff on Pink Bike, on Craigslist, and build yourself something cool that you have a personal attachment to and that you're maybe not super heavily invested in monetarily, but maybe have a little bit more time invested in it. And I guarantee you that you'll love that bike and you'll progress on that bike. And then, eventually if you get good, or if you, start sending gnarly stuff, then yeah, great. If you feel like you need an upgrade, then upgrade then. But I feel like this, rampant consumerism in this industry, I'm so vehemently against. And so I guess that's my long spiel as to why I now have a $2,500 carbon enduro bike, when I've been saying before to buy, $500 bikes and make them cool. I guess that doesn't really explain why I have so many bikes on my wall still. 3 of these bikes, actually technically 4 of these bikes are not mine. The Carbon Juliana is my girlfriend's. I had a Trek Slash for her, but that was just a little bit too burly. She's not exactly on the bigger side, so got her this Juliana Rubion CC. And that is a little bit lighter and more playful for her. It's 27.5, it just fits her a lot better overall, so she's been loving that. And then I have a Carbon Scott road bike, and then I have my aluminum Trek road bike. The Scott I got for free. I'm pretty much just fixing it up, getting it running well. It was sitting in the yard for a while, so getting the bars retaped, put new hoods on it. I went through and just put the whole drivetrain in the sonic cleaner, got it all cleaned up, got it lubricated and shifting well, got the brakes adjusted, tires filled up and everything. And then my plan is just to sell it for cheap, try and get someone a good road bike that they can use for, not a huge amount of money. I'm just trying to get back out of it, basically the service parts that I put in. And then my Trek road bike, I love that thing. I think it's beautiful. I'm going to keep it for a while. I also have a Sunday Scout BMX bike. That's kind of replacing my dirt jumper for the time being. I don't have the money now that I've got this to also have like a dedicated dirt jumper. So I've been just hitting, this is probably a bad idea. I've been hitting bigger jumps and trying to trick bigger jumps on my Enduro. I've got my first ever tuck no-hander, or I guess it wasn't a tuck no-hander, it was a suicide no-hander. I got my first ever suicide no-hander on this bike just a couple weeks ago. I've been getting, turn downs, T-bogs, tire taps. I got one like decent actual tire grab. I'd like to eventually start getting cans, like 1-footed cans, or even just like pulling feet off the pedals and stuff. And so I've been practicing that out at Winoga on some of the bigger jumps on 50 Shades. So right now I'm taking a break from dirt jumping, but I will get into it eventually. It's just a matter of having the funds and the willingness to want to go back out to the lair, because the next kind of step for me to progress at the layer is the new Apollo line that I helped Carson Storch build, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago. And so that was, you know, I was obviously very, very small part in that, just doing a lot of slapping and moving stuff around and helping the crew. Carson did a huge amount of machine work with that, and it was super cool to, you know, watch him work and kind of learn his process. But like trying to follow Carson and Ryan McNulty in to a brand new line just really emphasized kind of what the skill delta is between where I'm at and where they're at, and the risks that I'm willing to take versus what they're willing to take. And I would like to say that Carson was a very, very good sport in that he didn't, you know, he was very encouraging, but also like, hey, you know, you don't have to do this. You have, you know, a job and things on the line. Like, don't push yourself beyond what you feel comfortable with. And so I really appreciated that. You know, they pushed me. I got some big jumps, and I got to test some stuff. And like, you know, it was cool being the third person to hit the top part of the line, even if it is just, you know, the top 3 jumps. But the bottom, I guess, 6 are a lot bigger than I've ever hit on a dirt jumper, and I'm not quite comfortable hitting that stuff yet. And I know if I have a dirt jumper that's built up, that's like the next thing for me to tackle, and I don't want to tackle that yet, so I'm kind of saving myself the temptation by not having a DJ. That's about it. That's my update. I kind of rambled. Honestly, I wish that I had the energy right now to set up a bunch of shots and do some nice B-roll and show off a bunch of pretty pictures and videos of my sweet new enduro rig, but let me see what time it is. It's 10:20. I had a 3-hour oral today, and then I spent, you know, 4 or 5 hours this morning just poring over my notes and going over and building a nav log and everything for my commercial check ride that I have coming up. So my brain's tired. I just kind of wanted to come in here and say, hey, I'm alive. I do have the footage from that $500 $500 hardtail build I did, but I haven't been able to edit it in a way that I feel is deserving of the message and the purpose that I have behind that video. I want that video to do well, and because I feel like it really shows that you can do a lot with $500. But I feel like, you know, if I just like shard out another kind of poorly edited video, then the time I spent finding those parts and putting that bike together would be not well spent, because, you know, if no one watches the video because it sucks, then it doesn't matter if even what I said is true or could inspire other people to, you know, do a similar build themselves, or to, you know, find a cool project that they're passionate about, because, you know, everyone clicks off because the video sucks. So I'm still working on it. I will release it when I feel like it's worthy. And in the time being, I'll just like release this garbage can of a video out. I have a new shop. This is it. Yeah. If you're still here, wow, you must be bored, or you're doing something else and just put me on in the background. In that case, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Please get out and ride. It's great for your mental health. Make sure to not break the bank. My name is Tristan. You've been watching the Blue Square Bear YouTube channel. Have a great night.